Have you ever been playing Trivial Pursuit and the question came up, what is the national flower? And you thought, there's a national flower? Well, we're going to answer that question today. But before I do, hey, I'm Ashley with Meadow Mountain, and I take flowers and make designs like this that celebrate them. And today, we're not only celebrating the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, but also the national floral emblem for the United States, which is the rose. But how did the rose become the national emblem, floral emblem of the United States? Let's talk about it. It all started in 1901 when the red carnation was put forth as an option to become the national floral emblem. Now, if you remember Ohio and President McKinley and his love of wearing a red carnation in his lapel, you can understand that that was a pretty cool flower, but nothing came of it. And over the next 20, 30 years, 70 more bills were put forth with different flowers suggested as the national floral emblem. Flowers like the mountain laurel, like the daisy, like the phlox, like the corn tassel, which isn't technically a flower, but we'll give them that. Even the columbine was suggested, but none of them went very far. Then in 1929, Elizabeth Britton, who was very famous at the time because she was one of the founders of the New York Botanical Gardens, she decided that the rose should be the symbol of the United States. And in reading her writings, she was pretty sure she was right. She said, well, of course, this is going to be it. But not everyone agreed. So they went back and forth for years and years. And like I said, 70 other bills were put forth. But then in 1959, Royal H. Burpee, and anyone who grows flowers from seeds probably recognizes that name, Burpee. He wrote the newly elected Senate Minority Leader, who is Everett Dirksen. And he said the marigold should be the national floral emblem. Eric Dirksen totally agreed, and for the next 10 years, they campaigned that the marigold should be the floral emblem, not the rose. They had a lot of good arguments. The marigold grows all throughout America. It's native to America, and it's highly recognized. All true, but also all true about the rose as well. And in the end, the rose won. It reminds me a little bit of how Benjamin Franklin wanted the turkey to be the national bird, and it ended up being the eagle because, honestly, eagles are prettier. We as Americans tend to like aesthetically pleasing things, and so the rose won. And honestly, the rose makes sense. It's steeped in our history. It's steeped in our culture. George Washington himself cultivated roses. In fact, he created a rose that he named after his mother, Mary Washington, and people still grow that rose today. The rose grows throughout the whole country, including Alaska and Hawaii, which you may think it wouldn't, but it still does. The rose garden at the White House was planted in 1913 by First Lady Ellen Wilson. We have a football game called the Rose Bowl with a parade called the Rose Bowl Parade. And have you ever heard when the Kentucky Derby is run that we tell those horses to run for the roses? It's just steeped in our culture. So it makes sense that in 1986, November 20th to be exact, President Ronald Reagan announced from the Rose Garden that the rose would now officially be the national floral emblem. In his speech, he famously said, "Americans who would speak the language of the heart do so with a rose." So the next time you're playing Trivial Pursuit and someone asks what the national floral emblem is, you can say the rose with all the confidence that the rose has. I love telling these stories about how these flowers became emblems of states and countries. I'd love to know if you knew we had a national flower. Send me a message and we'll see you next time.